Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. Remember to subscribe so you won't miss any of our inspiring content. Here is episode number 123.
Have a goal that serves your loved ones. Because if your why is bigger than yourself, but can serve someone you truly care about, you are going to stop at nothing to accomplish that goal.
Benjamin Franklin once said, "Do not curse the darkness, rather light a candle instead." If you're ready to set your mind on fire, then prepare yourself for the Luminous Mind with your host, Rebecca Bowman.
Today's fire starter is Tyler Watson. Tyler loves playing big and having fun with anyone wanting to set free the little kid inside of all of us. He's the president of the Freedom Catalyst, an organization dedicated to freeing minds, hearts, relationships, and nations. His passion is to help mentors, coaches, healers, and networkers raise their value, master their message, and enroll high-paying clients so that they can be free to spend time with their loved ones. He has taken his business to over 6 figures in less than 10 months. Also, Tyler has been part of a sales team of 5 people who did an online coaching launch that did $1.3 million in 2 weeks. Welcome, Tyler.
Thank you, Rebecca.
This is going to be awesome. I want to find out how you did that. But before we get into that, do you want to just briefly tell us a little bit more about yourself, your family, and hobbies, passions that you have, and then definitely move into your profession?
Absolutely. So, like you said, my name is Tyler Watson, and I am living here in Provo, Utah. We recently moved, and when I say we, I mean my wife and I and our little baby Isabella. She's almost 5 months old now, and we recently moved up here from Branson, Missouri. So it was a little bit of a journey to new world. So that's a little bit about kind of where we're from. I started off as a Thai yoga therapist, actually. And my background is my dad's a clinical kinesiologist. My stepmom's a naturopath. And
Wow.
So my whole life, I loved and still love and am passionate about healing, natural therapies and people shifting and changing and growing. And so I thought I was going to be a doctor of natural medicine. So that's what I started studying for. Last year, I decided to change careers, and I became a mentor in sales. I didn't actually quite find that was my passion till I became good at it. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, so like I've said, I switched from being a massage therapist, doing Thai therapy, to now I teach mentors, networkers, entrepreneurs how to do authentic high-end enrollments so they can get paid what they're worth.
Oh, that's awesome. So I want to hear more about that journey, how you went from that natural type medicine to moving into sales and helping people with those, I guess you'd call them mental blocks. What did that journey look like that led you to do that?
It's quite the journey, actually. And some of the most important parts deal with my family and my spiritual relationship with my higher power. And for me, that's God. And so as I share this, a lot of people I've worked with are from all sorts of different denominations. Some of them are atheist, Buddhist, Jewish, you name it. And the cool thing about the gift that I share and how I teach is that it can apply to anyone from any belief and any background. The one thing that I ask people to do is come from a state of equanimity. And for those of you who don't really know what that word means, because I didn't when I first saw it, it means whatever comes your way, whatever new information comes, instead of tuning it out, instead of throwing up the alarms of saying this isn't right or this is wrong, be in a place where you can be neutral and see it as it is. And I would say this is one of the most important lessons that it took for me, is to be in a place where I strive to not judge, be authentic.
Well, and I really love that message. I mean, what I'm getting out of that, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that maybe when we want to learn and to be, like you said, more authentic, just to continue to learn, just to continue on that path of growth mindset, if we immediately throw up this defensive thing, we aren't going to get there. We're not going to learn. We're not going to grow. We're not going to find that personal discovery. And when we can kind of come from a place of like non-judgment, at least to an analysis, an analysis place of maybe looking over the information before we just won't listen to it, don't you find that maybe you can continue to grow at a much faster pace because of that?
Oh, absolutely. And it's a game changer. The people who I find who are stuck, who aren't moving forward, who aren't creating more success, it's because they are in this place of judgment, whether it's of themselves or those around them.
Wow. Well, and I think a lot of us are extremely judgmental of ourselves, or, we put this idea in our mind of what we are, and we don't really move past that, even if we're, a good person and we're doing all those things to be a good member of society. So tell us a little bit more about the inspiration behind your message and how you came to this place of wanting to help others, find that authentic self.
Awesome. Well, it really starts, in order to answer that, I have to go back a little bit, because there was a little bit of a journey that I had to take before I found the solutions. It really started when I was 12 years old. And I'm going to share this experience with you, hoping that it will help you guys who are listening be able to tune in, relate, and be able to make some changes in your lives for the better. So I was 12 years old, living in Arkansas, chilling out with the cows and the horses, and it's just like hillbilly country down there. And I had a great life there with my parents and my 4 siblings. And so I found myself one day at the age of 12 during summer, sitting on the couch, just enjoying life. And my dad and my mom, they come in the room, and I was watching TV. And as they come in, I get this feeling like, oh, shoot, something's up. Like, I think I did something wrong. I don't know if you ever felt that way. My dad turns off the TV, and I'm like, oh, gosh, what did I do this time? And my dad sits down, and he looks me in the eyes, and he says, Tyler, your mom and I are getting a divorce. And from that moment of everything I learned about families, that they're supposed to be together forever and that we're supposed to have complete joy and happiness, it was as if somebody took the rug and pulled it right out from under me. And in that moment, as the eldest son, I felt like it was entirely my fault.
That's sad how kids take that on themselves, right?
Oh, absolutely. And so from that moment, I decided that I wasn't good enough, that I had to go out and earn back this love. And so I went out and made straight A's, became the MVP, did all these great things. But at the end of the day, I never told it to anyone. And I remember sitting on my bed one night, crying myself to sleep and debating on whether or not to take my life, wondering, if I killed myself, would anyone even care? Would anyone even know? And I fought through this depression for years, wondering, can I even make a difference? What's the point? And I went on this journey of trying to figure out who I am, what is my purpose, and can I actually do good? And during that process, I slipped into temptations and addictions, into pornography and things that I've been taught my whole life that you're not supposed to do. And I allowed myself, and it was this terrible feeling inside of, I can't make it. And after my mom went through 3 more divorces, and my dad went through another, the same message over and over and over. And it wasn't until I met my wife, Emily, a year and a half ago, she introduced me into a world of mentoring and transformation. And as I started to study about emotions and how to help people and how to shift mindsets, I started to forgive and let go of things that I'd held on to. And I started to realize that true change can happen. And so I started to go to work on myself and just changing and changing and changing. And that's when I had this shift of, oh my goodness, what am I to do? What is my real mission? What is my purpose? And you asked the question, how did I tune into this spiritually to find this result? I go through a process during this time where I wanted to transition. I had two things. One, become a doctor of natural medicine, or two, be a mentor. And on this journey, I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like this is the next piece, but I'm unsure. I don't know if any of you ever felt that, where there's an opportunity and you're just unsure. Is this the right thing? Do I need to do this? Should I invest in this? And all these questions are going through my mind as I'm already invested in this D&M program and time and money. And yet here's a new opportunity to success. So I go through what's a process called a power prayer. And I learned it. For those of you who are familiar with the Bible, it's actually found in Genesis. And I learned this when I served a 2-year mission in Mexico, and it completely changed my life. But it's a 5-step process that I use anytime I have a decision so that I can know 100% sure what God wants and if it's the right thing for me.
So I'm hoping you're going to share this. I'm like sitting on the edge of my chair going, what is it?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about the process. It's a little in-depth. It might take some time, and I actually have some ways that you guys can get that for free to get that process, because it was so good, and I had so many people asking about it, and I was just like, man, I've got to record this because it's changing lives all over the place.
Well, and I think really finding out that inner mission, I guess is what I would call it, is really important for each of us. I think we all have a different mission that maybe, we see ourselves trying to fulfill another person's expectation of what they think our mission should be. But in actuality, our mission may be much different. It may be something that we have never even seen before because of those expectations that we have in front of us. So I think it's really important, as we've talked about changing the paradigm, for us to really find, like we've discussed earlier, living that authentic self, to really find that mission. So if you want to just go through that quickly, and then I can go ahead and put a link on our show notes that our listeners can go and actually get that process if that works. Does that sound like a good plan?
Complete. So I'll go ahead and describe it, because this is one of the most important messages I could share, is how to connect to your higher power, how to connect to above. And man, so this process I've used, it's how I found my wife. It's literally how I was able to find family of 5 on my mission and bring them to Christ. It was literally how I found my car, like everything, how I figured out what house we were supposed to move to, when to move, when to have a baby. Like everything has been a revolving around this power prayer. And gosh, I've had so many people have used it and were like, I thought I knew how to pray until I used it in this way. So I'll go over it real fast because this is just good stuff. And then those of you who want to dive in, I'll give you the link. So in this moment when I'm, I've got this choice. I'm either going to be a doctor of natural medicine or I'm going to be a mentor and go train and teach. And so in this moment, I go through this process, and it's found in Genesis, and it's based off of, if you're familiar with this, there's a time where Abraham's servant goes out to find a wife for his son. And he goes through a process which is phenomenal. Completely changed my life when I studied this and dove into the process behind it. And it's all about how to have a prayer of faith. And so here's the step 1. Step number 1 is you've got to know your options. And you've got to weigh each option in your mind. So I had my doctor of natural medicine. I had my, the other option was mentoring. So I wrote up all the perks and flaws, all the ups and downs, all the goods and bads for both of them. Came through and just was like, okay, this is the goods and the bads. This is the goods and bads. This one, which one am I leaning to? I didn't really have one. So it was like, either way, you ever had that? It's like, gosh, either way, it could be good. And so I thought, okay, this one or this one. So that's step 1. Have your choices, okay, and study them out and get everything that you need to have, like how good you're gonna feel, money, investments, fears, doubts, everything about option 1 or option 2. Step 2 is once you have each one, then you have to have a way of recognizing the answer. Now, this is probably the most important thing that people miss out on. So just a side story to give you an example of how this works. There was a person who was dating somebody. Those of you who date people and are looking for your special someone, there was a lady who was dating someone, and she was unsure of which person to marry. She was dating two people, and they both were a great fit, and she liked them both, but she didn't know which one to marry. So she weighed them. Then the next process was how to recognize which one's which one's the one that God wants her to marry. And so she set it up this way. She said, okay, the one that thou would have me marry, the one that's the best fit for me, 12 o'clock tonight, he is going to call me, and I'll be waiting for him. He's going to call me, and he's going to tell me that he's reading. At the time there, he had a document called his patriarchal blessing. And so it's this insight that God gives people to know kind of some steps in their life. And so she's like, okay, he's going to call me at 12 o'clock tonight. And he's going to call me and say, I was reading my blessing, and I just felt inspired to call you and tell you that I love you. That was how she was going to recognize which one to marry. So step number 2 is you have to tell God how you will recognize it. Now, this is where people get flipped of like, oh my gosh, but then I'm asking for a sign or I'm asking for something. When they don't realize is, no, if you want something, you've got to want it, and you've got to say, I want it, and this is how I'll know that this is in accordance to your plan. That's called a prayer of faith. It requires boldness, it requires faith, and it requires action. So step 2 is set it up to where you will know. So for me, I was like, okay, my yes is going to be this. When I'm praying about this, as I say it, I am going to feel such an emotion, so overwhelming, that I'm going to burst into tears, and I can't control it. That way I'll recognize. Now my no is I'm going to be in a place of where I'm thinking it, and the more I try to see myself, the darker it gets, and the less I can focus on it. And the other one was I'm going to burst into tears, and I'm also going to have a clear vision of what it'll look like as I'm doing that occupation and the impact that'll make on the people. So that's step 2. Step 3 is probably the hardest for people. And this one is the one that you actually have to practice at. But step 3 is getting into a place where you trust and will act on whatever the answer is.
Yeah, that is the hardest, because sometimes the answer is not what you want. So,
yep.
Yeah.
And if you're not ready, you won't receive an answer. It won't happen.
That's interesting.
You'll pray and it won't happen. And you'll be like, I wonder what happened. When I first did this, it took me 3 months to get the faith up to where it would happen. And then once it happened, it was faster and faster and faster to where literally in moments now I get answers.
That is interesting. What's the 4th step then?
So the 4th step is, so back to the 3rd step though. So it's the commitment. It's saying, I'm all in. Whatever it is, I am all in either way. And I am in a state of complete equanimity. What you say goes, and I'm going to do your will, not mine. So that scares the bejeebies out of most people, and that's where they get caught up. So the 4th step is the actual prayer, where you go through the prayer and you tell him everything from step 1 and step 2, or everything from the 1st step, which is you tell him all the goods and the bads and how you're feeling. Then you tell him, and in your prayer, you're like, okay, Heavenly Father, so is this the way that you would have me go? And you just wait till the answer comes. Then you ask the other one, and you will feel a distinct difference of however you set it up. If it's something is going to happen, or you're going to feel something, or whatever it is, it will manifest. Then the 5th step is gratitude. As soon as it happens, even if you don't get your answer, it's simply because you didn't either have the faith yet, or you need to change how you're praying. Change it up. Try something different.
That's interesting. So talked about at the beginning of our conversation that, you work with people of all different denominations or even people that don't necessarily believe in God. What are some challenges that maybe you've had along the way with this journey, and what have you learned from them? What you've seen in other people, maybe what they've learned from it.
Well, yeah. So whether or not we believe something, if it's true, it's true. If you tap into a true principle, you get results, period. And so if I teach people to just do something, whether they believe it or not, then they get results. And so often we judge things without ever knowing. And so if someone just tries it, gives it a try, even if they don't believe it's God, or just call it the universe or whatever you want, you'll get results. You'll get that answer, because if you go out with that kind of faith and are seeking from a higher power than yourself, it will manifest. I love it. Some of my best friends are non-Christian and they have so many different beliefs, and I teach them how to do this technique, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. It's a game-changing technique.
Yeah. Like I said, I definitely believe you need to find out what your life's mission is. Every one of us have that inside of us, and we can lead that change or that mission just by asking. So I completely understand. You say people say, well, that's asking for a sign. When you talked about that Bible verse with Jacob finding his wife, didn't he kind of do that too? Like tell his servant this is...
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so let me give you a Tyler version of the account. So Abraham's servant goes out to find this wife, right? And he goes and he tells God, he's like, in a prayer, before he even goes, he's like, okay, God, I have studied it out. I know that the women, they come out at this time at a certain well, and they all come out there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring 10 camels with me, and we're going to go out to this well at that time. And the lady that thou hast chosen for me, she is going to she's going to come to the well, and she's going to offer drink to all 10 of my camels. Then she's going to offer drink to me as well. And so he sets it up like, he could have just brought one camel. Like he could have just been himself. But he made it so specific on how he wanted it, because he wanted to know for sure that this was the one that the Lord had chosen for him. So he does it, and he tells the Lord, he sets it up, which is step one. Then he goes, and he's in this case, he didn't really have an option he had to weigh. So it was just telling him what was going to happen, which is step 1 and 2. Step 3 was his commitment. And he's like, okay, so the one that comes to the well, I know that that's the one, and boom, we're going to make it happen. I'm going to talk to her family, and I'm going to bring them here, and they're going to get married, and happily ever after. So he's fully committed. He doesn't care what she looks like. It's, you do this, that's the one. Then the 4th step is, so the 3rd step was the commitment, and the 4th step, do you remember what it was?
I know the 5th one's gratitude.
Yeah, 5th one's gratitude. So 4th step was actually doing it, going through it, and from A to Z. So he went to the well, he had the prayer, and literally it says as soon as before he finished the prayer, this girl came. Like, that's how quick it was answered. Super quick. And she came, she gave camels drink, him to drink, and he just was like, oh my gosh, this is the one. So then they get together, they go to this house, and they offer him food, and he's like, no, I'm not going to eat yet because of this important mission. Like, I've got to complete my task. And he tells him, like, look, I'm here to complete this mission, and I've prayed God, and he tells him what he did so he would recognize it. And they're amazed, and they're like, okay, great. And then, and only then, after he gives thanks and gratitude, then does he eat and continue on his journey.
Yeah.
So that's step 5.
Yeah, he definitely had the faith to get that answer that he needed. Before we go on, let's listen to this message.
Changing a paradigm takes some study, but like me, you are probably super busy. That's why we've teamed up with Audible. Go to our website, theluminousmind.net, get a free month of Audible with 2 audiobooks, thousands of titles in exchange for only books that you absolutely love. You too can be learning on the go to keep that fire burning.
The Luminous Mind with Freedom Catalyst Tyler Watson. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want to just tell our audience what you feel like your paradigm change has been? I mean, we talked about your early childhood and some of those things that you experienced, the addictions, and then also now, with your business and stuff. What's the overall paradigm change you think that has occurred over time and with that experience?
Number one is, so I have 3 paradigm shifts that I want to share. Number one is about making money. And when I tuned in and decided that I was going to serve God instead of money, everything started working. And that was a story in itself, and I can tell you a little later if you'd like. But
Sure.
I had to learn that lesson of who I was going to trust in myself, in money, in my higher power, in who. And as I decided to actually step forth and do the things that I knew was right, that I knew was authentic to me, and do it for authentic and real reasons, then money became a game, and it became something super fun instead of something that was a burden and hard and had to be difficult. It became easy.
Just trying to make it through this life, that endurance type thing.
It's bigger than that. We've got a bigger purpose here. So that would be my first paradigm shift, was around money. That money is awesome. Money is my friend. Money is super fun. It's not a big deal. It's just a resource to change people's lives. The second one is the importance of family and tuning into what you want to manifest for your family. So actually doing this interview today, I just completed one of my most important tasks that I've had on my vision board since the day I got married. And it's awesome. My wife, she's a concert pianist, okay? And her whole life, she has always wanted a grand piano. She couldn't afford one growing up. She had an upright. And she played and played and went to school, studied, and hours and hours and hours of play. So good and so beautiful. It's magical when she plays. And when I married her, I made a commitment. I was like, okay, 3 to 5 years, because I didn't really trust myself at the time. I was like, 3 to 5 years, I'm going to get you a piano, a grand piano. I know I can do it. And I was so excited. And as I've had these paradigm shifts around money, of serving, of loving people, and diving into my authenticity, I just bought my wife a grand piano. And today it arrived at our house, and she didn't even know. And I got it all on video, and it was the most magical experience.
That's awesome.
It was beautiful.
That was really great.
So the second paradigm shift is around family. Have a goal that serves your loved ones. Because if your why is bigger than yourself, but can serve someone you truly care about, you are going to stop at nothing to accomplish that goal.
I love that. That is true. I think that's going to be your quote out of this that I'm going to take. So, and then your third paradigm shift is?
So the third one is, they're all interconnected. So first one's around money, second one's around family, third one is around my higher power. And it's to put him first in everything that I do. So if an opportunity comes up, if I'm teaching people not to be ashamed to help people come closer to him. And whoever your higher power is, if you believe in a higher power and if you are dedicated to that belief, then serve with faith, serve with passion, and be just as passionate in your business, with your family, as you are with your higher power. Do not separate them. Because if you want to be authentic, you cannot separate your gifts. You must come as one, as a whole.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm getting out of this, and kind of correct me if I'm wrong or help me out with this, is if you put God first, your relationships are better because, sometimes we put our spouse first and then we can't figure out why we can't have a happy marriage, or, we put our children over that relationship that we have with God, and then we can't figure out why, our children aren't listening to us and stuff. But if we put that relationship first with God, it just seems like everything else falls into place. That's been very powerful in my life. That I've realized that I've got to do those first things first before I try to be a mother or a wife or even a podcaster. I mean, what's your take on that?
Yeah, hands down. And it's just so beautiful to be able to step into something that you can know. And you can gaze into the eyes of someone sitting in front of you and tell them about the joy and the happiness and what can happen in their life, which is really what mentoring and enrollments are all about. You know, I used to have so much fear around enrolling others and asking them for money. And as I did that launch with my mentor and we did 1.3 million in 2 weeks, like I had to just come into this place of service, of saying, do I love this person enough to ask them for money? Do I care enough about them to help them change their life? And gosh, that paradigm shift is huge. And, you know, ever since, it's just been phenomenal with our business, with helping others, and the testimonials that we've been getting. It's just so much fun.
Yeah. Well, let's go into that, I guess. That's a good segue into what services you offer, courses you have, and then let's talk a little bit about those testimonials, how people's lives have been changed, you know, working with you.
Sure. So some of the things that I do, so my mission, my passion is to help people create in 3 areas. Number 1, create a lot of money. Number 2, have fantastic relationships with their family. And number 3, connect to their higher power. So those 3 things, those 3 paradigm shifts is exactly what I teach in the things that I offer. Now, my brand name and our business is called the Freedom Catalyst. My wife actually created that. My personal brand is called Authentic Enrollments. And I created this actually in 2015, the beginning in January, where I struggled financially. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was trying to get people to see my value. And then I learned the system and strategy behind communicating your message, as well as the emotions behind it to feel good enough and deliver in a high level way.
Wow.
And so as I pulled those 2 together, you know, in 1 week, I had $600 in my bank account, struggling, trying to make it happen. I used this system that I teach, and in 1 week, I created $6,400.
Wow. That's
One
pretty
was
significant.
to a lady on a plane that I'd never met, but we had a conversation. I used the process, the 5 steps that I teach to get anyone to sit down with you and have a sales conversation authentically, and helped her enroll in a $1,500 package that I created the night before.
That's interesting.
Moved on, and then a $900 package and a $4,000 package all in the same week to people who I had just met, and within 2 to 3 hours, even less, they enrolled and worked with me, and they had phenomenal results. So yeah, it's powerful. Once you learn the strategy and the system, it can completely change your life. One thing I teach is I have a day class, a live event. We're actually going to do it here pretty soon, called Authentic Enrollments. I do webinars as well. And those are kind of our introductory. If someone, you know, wants to get their feet wet, then they get onto our website, they go through a little funnel, and they'll go and get some of our materials, learn about, you know, some steps, how to step into your authenticity, and then practice, go out, practice with people. And those who are serious, who want to like really take their business to the next level, they'll have what's called a strategy session with me, where we dive into their goals, their vision, and see if it's a fit, see what's stopping them and help them move forward.
That's awesome. And sometimes it's those mental, personal blocks that we talked about before, you know, kind of like with in your youth of some of those self-esteem issues that you struggled with. Is that true?
Jeez, is it true? Man, every single entrepreneur I've worked with, there is always a reason, a story, some sort of program or paradigm that they have learned from their youth that they need to unlearn. And so many of my emotional processes that I learned in my Thai therapy, I use to help them have very quick shifts around their emotional state, especially around money and creation and receiving.
That is
so
great.
Oh my goodness, yeah, like hands down.
So let's kind of dive into that. Let's talk about what you've learned while you've mentored other people, you know, and maybe significant differences of mentors have made in your life.
Sure. So I'll give you some examples of some people who have worked with me, and then I'll give you some all the things that I've invested in and learned from. Actually, I'll flip that. I'll share with you all the things that I've invested in, and I'll tell you all the people I've helped. So when I started off, my wife actually was my number one mentor. She had been mentoring for 9 years, teaching online and doing her own business. I went through her online program and it completely changed my life. So first and foremost and forever will be my wife, Emily. That's awesome. My number one mentor. From there, I started studying and did some Darren Harding, and I did some Kirk Duncan, and was able to learn about body language and shifting and doing vision boards and working on some emotions, and I got some good results there. And then I found Leslie Householder and did her stuff, learned about visioning and creation, and did boot camping and all these cool things. And let's see, from there, I went, did Raymond Grace, who taught me how to be a master at dowsing. My dad has taught me a lot of that as well. And it's basically how to shift things energetically in an instant. And it's one of the most powerful processes I teach people. So it's, just take something, a belief, and then shift it, completely change it.
That's interesting.
So, a lot of people take too long to shift stuff, and they just get caught up in their stuff. So it's like, let's change. Let's change right now. Why wait? So Raymond Grace, then Ted McGrath, that's who I helped do his launch with, and we did 1.3 million in 2 weeks. He helped me with some of the strategies behind it, how to actually do some of the systems. A part of what I teach is profoundly influenced by him. From there, also dove into some New Peak stuff and learning from them. Like I've invested over $50,000
wow.
this year alone in personal development and growth. So my philosophy is I dive into one, take my gold nugget, and then I go dive into another, take it, and then go to another and just suck in as much good stuff that I need. And then I package it my way, teach it my way, and simple to where people can get great results in half the time.
That is great. So tell me what you've learned from mentoring other people, as you've taken those nuggets and used it packaged in your own way. What have you learned from those people?
Well, number one is people are amazing. People have so much potential inside. They just need someone to believe in them. And as you step in to be that warrior of light, to be that authentic enroller, you not only are working on yourself, but they're a mirror reflection of you. So when I found a lot of people who said didn't have the money or didn't have the time, I knew that it was a reflection of myself. And so I said, oh, well, where in my life am I lacking in money? And as soon as I changed my life and said, you know what, I can be abundant with what I have, I stopped attracting those people who didn't have the money. And so everything I use, every person I know who comes into my space, who I do a strategy session with, I am there to learn from them and them from me. It's a beautiful experience. I never stop learning.
Yeah, that's kind of how it works with interactions with people, right? That God brings people into your life that maybe you need at that time to help you continue to grow as you're also helping them.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's literally every single person I have found is simply a mirror reflection of you. And so many people are like, oh no, but it's my spouse or it's this person and they need to change. When the reality is as you shift and change, they will too.
Yeah, exactly. That making those changes within us, that's what we can control. We can't control other people. And sometimes when we learn to control what we can control, it changes everything. So
yeah,
that's great. So, we've talked about your 5-step process for prayer. Actually, let's go back. We talked about, classes that you've had and stuff. Are there books or other resources that you've had that maybe you've read that maybe you feel have been helpful in your life?
Sure. I'm a avid reader. I didn't used to be until I met my wife. And so some of my top books that I recommend is, number one is The Jackrabbit Factor from Leslie Householder. Awesome book.
Wow.
And teaching people about how to take their vision and create it to where they aren't a slave to their business. That's a beautiful message, and it's an analogy with hunting rabbits. I love it. The second one is called Never Be Closing by Ted McGrath, and it teaches you how to have real sales conversations with people. And the third one is Book Yourself Solid. And I think it's Michael's, or I forget the author, but those 3 books have helped me more than anything. And actually, like, I forgot to mention, the most important, though, for me has honestly been the scriptures. So the Bible with the Book of Mormon, those 2 books combined have been my number 1 since I can remember. Anytime I'm struggling or have something that I don't understand, I just turn to that, and that's where I find my inspiration. Other than that, though, aside of scriptures, those 3 books are in my top 10.
That's great. Well, and I think those spiritual resources that we have, when we tap into that, it helps, kind of like with your method of prayer, inspiration can come and flow through those as well. So I definitely will back you on that. So tell me about maybe some personal habits other than your 5-step process for prayer that you feel have been the most influential in your life.
Well, some of my habits really go down to a lot of the people I've helped get some amazing results with. I had a person whose name's Heather. She was in sales, and she was averaging pretty good at like $16,000 a month in sales as a Chamber of Commerce. And as she went through the system, I taught her how to communicate. One of my main practices in everything I do is the words I speak. Because you either speak words of truth or words of death. It's that simple. And I strive to teach people about how to speak truth, how to speak light, how to lift others. So as I taught Heather this, she took her sales from $16,000 in 1 month to $36,000.
Wow.
In the next month. And more than that, though, she said, my relationship with my husband's been the best it's been in 33 years.
That is great. Communication makes a big difference,
It's everything.
Yeah.
And here's the next nugget, because too many people in the personal development world get sucked into the emotions. And as soon as you learn to communicate effectively, the emotions cease.
Yeah.
I find so many people slaves to even tools that they're taught, when the reality of it is, if they just learn the strategy and structure of communication, the emotion cannot exist in that space.
Yeah. Well, kind of like what we were talking about with money. Sometimes there's so much emotion wrapped up in providing for ourselves that it's no longer fun, that we see that money as I don't know how to describe it, but just basically like put those limitations. We're not living out of abundance. We're living out of fear, kind of thing, of like, I've got to provide for my family or whatever, but taking the emotion out of it helps it be fun, earning a living.
Absolutely.
That's great. At least that's the analogy that I thought of.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for sharing.
Well, tell me a little bit about what your long-term goals are going to be, and then maybe the legacy that you hope to leave.
Absolutely. So my long-term goal, I'll just tell you my next year goal. So in this year, the 2016, we're taking our business to 1.5 million, and we're planning on reaching hundreds of thousands of lives with our online funnels and services, because I believe that there needs to be a movement happening on the planet where mentors, networkers, speakers, chiropractors, healers, people who have gifts inside that help others, they must step into this place of authenticity to make their message their own, so that they can turn their pains into profits, their failures into fortunes, and their wisdom into wealth. And as they go out and share these things and inspire others in huge ways, they're offering $10,000 and $50,000 and $100,000 packages, because money represents change for me. And as people step up their game, the whole world will step up in energy, in love, in light, and in passion. And the exchange is going to be transformational. So my vision is to inspire healers and mentors and networkers all over the planet to finally step in and say, yes, I am worth it. Yes, I deserve to be paid well doing what I love, and you can do it from being you.
That is great. I really love that. And obviously that must be your legacy too, that you want people to work from a place of abundance more so than, this place of scarcity. Is that kind of what you're saying there with your legacy?
Well, yeah, just imagine if every single healer on the planet, every single mentor, networker actually started to decide, hey, I'm worth it and so are you. And as they share their message and as they communicate, people's level of communication raises. The interactions, they exchange hundreds of thousands of dollars, and everyone's wealth increases. There's enough wealth on this planet for everyone to be a millionaire plus. So it's not that it's not there. It's just that we don't communicate effectively to actually receive it.
And we're not tapping into that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
So yeah, that's my vision, and I see it happening in so many lives. Even people who are full-time jobs, like I have a kid named Alex. He's working full-time, kids, and he wanted to be a mentor, so he got plugged in with me, played big, joined in one of my higher-end packages, and now he's creating in between $5,000 to $10,000 a month teaching people in his spare time, which is only a few hours a week. So it's like, if people can do this, hone in on their value, and help others see it, their whole life improves.
That is great. Well, Tyler, I feel bad. I've taken way longer than I told you we were going to, but, do you have any final parting words for our listeners? And then please give us your contact information, how they can get in touch with you. And I'll go ahead and link those up on our show notes as well, but give those out to us, please.
Absolutely. So my final parting words is call to action, because I'm all about people moving forward and changing. If you have felt led or inspired by anything that I have said, then I want you to tune in right now and ask yourself, if you are a healer, a mentor, a networker, a chiropractor, a healer in any aspect, and you're wanting to take your life to the next level, the question is, are you ready to do so now? And if you decide that the answer is yes, that you're ready to explore some opportunities, it would be an honor for me to have a conversation with you, to get you to talk to one of my coaches, to be able to serve you at the highest level. So give it a shot. If you're serious, if you're committed, if you're ready to move forward and get some amazing results, then I highly suggest get plugged in to what I'm doing, what I'm being able to share. For some, it's exactly what they're needing. And hopefully I know that as this is going out, that it's going to connect with many of you. So if you want to get plugged in, go to, there's two places you can go. The first one is AuthenticEnrollments.com, AuthenticEnrollments.com. And there you can get plugged into our automated system. You'll get some free stuff there. We'll have a $7 offer, a $97 offer, and you can sign up for a coaching session through that. The other option is, if you would like to have a coaching session, if you're like, oh my gosh, Tyler, I just need to talk to you and I want to get started and I want to figure something out right now, then I'm going to provide a link to you, Rebecca, where they can schedule themselves a free strategy session. I don't usually do this, but for those who really are serious about it, that they are really wanting to learn about some new opportunities, then I'll offer a 30-minute strategy session with either myself or one of our coaches. And we can talk about your vision, talk about what you're creating and how we can serve each other on that level.
That's great. And that will be connected on our show notes page if they go to that. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'll read it to you right now, the actual link. If you,
that sounds great.
Want to hook it up that way as well. So here's the link. It's http:// meetme.so/Tyler Watson.
Great. That's
so
great.
meetme.so/Tyler Watson.
Great. And I'll be sure to link that on our show notes page so they can just go to it and click on it. That'd be awesome. So.
And be sure, if they do that, just click and schedule yourself for what's called a free strategy session. Be sure and fill out the questionnaire because that's going to help us move forward really fast.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Tyler. I've really been inspired by your message.
Well, thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure to get to share this with you all.
Thank you for listening to The Luminous Mind. To learn more about Tyler Watson, go to our show notes at theluminousmind.net. Be sure to become a subscriber to our free email list and consider joining our program by going to the scheduling tab to become a fire starter today. Help support the podcast by making all your Amazon purchases through the free Amazon widget on our website. Also, sign up to receive 2 free audiobooks from Audible at theluminousmind.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Google+, and now Pinterest. Get our audio content by subscribing on YouTube, iTunes, and Stitcher. To help us grow, consider telling your friends about us. Leave us a review. Tell us how we can help you so together we can continue to light minds on fire and change the paradigm of education.